All right, welcome back. Chapter 19 for the emergency medical responder. In this particular chapter, we're going to talk about transport operations. We want you folks as first responders to know how the transport operations parts of it work, even though you're not involved. Only EMTs and paramedics, doctors, nurses, those kind of things are really involved in the transport side of it. We need to make sure that you're familiar with the processes and how they work. All right, so to be an effective emergency medical responder, you need to know several things to include how we prepare for the call, how dispatch information comes through, how we respond safely to the scene, how we perform a scene size up when we pull up, and performing initial patient assessment and provide emergency care, and also updating other responding units in the emergency medical services system, and then completing the post-run activities. All right, so preparing, as you can see here in this particular photograph, equipment. Obviously, we got to have equipment for our job. You know, we have an ambulance and we have all kinds of stuff in it. This particular photograph here is a photograph of a first in bag or a first response bag with some limited supplies in it. So preparing for the call, we got to ensure that the vehicle is ready to respond at all times. And we need to be prepared to respond promptly using the most direct method. So we need to know how to get there quickly. Most ambulance systems now have some kind of guidance system that gives us the shortest route. And you got to make sure you have the proper equipment. And you have to check it out every single day when you start your shift. It's the first thing that we do. And we have many different methodologies or policies and protocols to do that. But basically it's the same, you know, making sure that you go through your bag and make sure you go through your equipment and see that it's ready to go at a moment's notice. All right, so preparing for a call. This is table 19-1, suggested contents of your EMR life support kit. Patient examination equipment, safety equipment, resuscitation, bandage, patient immobilization, extrication equipment, some miscellaneous stuff, other stuff, and optional equipment. So this is something you can review, go over. This is some of the basic stuff that you guys should have as a first responder in your first in bag. All right, so phases of an EMR call. Dispatch. The dispatch facility is a center that citizens can call for help. Most centers are a part of the 911 system and they're called PSAPs, Public Service Access Points. Dispatchers should obtain proper information from the caller and instruct the callers on how to perform life-saving techniques until you as the first responder gets there. Information from dispatch should be the nature of the call, name and location of the patient, the number of patients that are involved, any special problems or hazard, and then a callback number from the caller. Then you got to respond to the scene. So you got to get to the scene quickly and safely. Whatever your first responder vehicle is, some organizations, you know, provide a vehicle. Some organizations have you use the same vehicle and you can actually mount a light on it and that kind of stuff. I believe either red or yellow, depending on your laws of your state and county. Consider the traffic patterns and the time of day. Make sure that you're taking the shortest and safest route. Always use your seatbelts, obviously. Keep all your equipment secured. Use any warning devices that may be mounted on your vehicle in accordance with state laws. Don't exceed a safe speed. It does not give you the right to go faster than the speed limit. So be safe and drive defensively. All right, so arrival of the scene. Place your vehicle in a safe location. Perform a scene size up. Make sure that it's safe. You know, don't get out of your vehicle if it's not safe. Make sure that it's safe. Look for hazards. Control the flow of traffic. Determine the number of the patients and need for additional resources, and then provide patient care. Now, transferring the care of a patient to another EMS personnel, you need to give them a brief report of the situation. Tell them what you found when you got there, and what you've done for the patient, how your patient responded to your care. Ask them if they have any questions of you, and then offer to assist them in the continuance of the care of the patient. Post-run activities. Paperwork. I can't tell you. Oof. Our world that we live in today is lots of paperwork. Make sure to clean your equipment and replace needed supplies. And only after you've completed these activities should you resume your regular duties or notify your dispatcher that you're ready for another call. All right, so helicopter operations. Occasionally this happens. This is let's see, this is a Bell 230. It is a Maryland State Police helicopter. These helicopters are used by EMS systems so we can reach patients that are unreachable, transport patients to medical facilities quickly, and to remove patients from inaccessible areas. We utilize these guys usually within a 500-mile radius. Anything beyond that, we're going to go with an aircraft or a fixed-wing aircraft. This is called a rotor wing aircraft. Right, so helicopters have several advantages. They can respond quickly above traffic, when it's congested, they can go out in the woods, that kind of stuff. They usually carry specialized equipment, and their personnel may be able to perform some advanced skills that are not available from personnel that are on staffing ground ambulances. Helicopters are limited by bad weather, depending on what kind of helicopter it is. So that's something to keep in mind. If your EMS system uses one, get a copy of the ground operations procedures. You need to understand what they expect of you when they're flying in. I am a flight medic. I've been a flight medic since 1986, and I tell you, you really need to know your stuff on the ground, because I really will be honing in on you as we come in, especially our pilots. Need to have good hand signals and appropriate hand signals and a good landing zone set up for us. Schedule an orientation session with your local helicopter provider. They love to do it. They'll come out, we'll get things set up pre-hand so that you understand how this process works. Air operations are a lot different than ground. Know how to request helicopter response, as well as what criteria for calling a helicopter for trauma patients, medical patients, and wilderness response areas. All right, safeties. These guys, helicopters are dangerous to untrained personnel. I mean, the rotors spin anywhere between 300 RPM to above, just being on the ground, and they may only be about 4 feet from the ground. Tail rotor spins at more 3,000 RPM and may be invisible to the naked eye as you walk up. Rotors can generate winds of 60 to 80 miles an hour, so just telling you right up front, the biggest thing is always approach from the front of the helicopter. If you ever see the pilot or any of the crew members going like this, that means stay, back up, stop what you're doing. You don't need to approach the aircraft. We're going to come to you. It's pretty simple. Never approach an aircraft until we go like this. If we want you to come to the helicopter, we will tell you. It'll be very obvious. So just don't approach the helicopter unless you're told to. There's usually no reason. We're going to come to you anyway with our supplies and our stretcher. All right, so setting up landing zones. This is a BK-117. Pilots usually land and take off into the wind. Most civilian helicopters need a landing zone of at least 100 by 100. This is a cold load. This helicopter is not running. Notice that everybody is heading towards the aircraft. The only downside is I don't see anybody wearing a helmet. I'm a real proponent about helmets on helicopters. This is probably a civilian member. I don't really know, but these two look like the flight team here. Helicopters and helmets are very, very important. Landing zones should be as flat as possible. When you approach it, always approach from the front, never from the rear. This particular helicopter does load from the rear. These back portions of it, again, this is a BK-117, it will open up from the back side so that they can load the patient into the back side on their, they are already on their stretcher. It will collapse and just go into it. The wheel carriages come up from the bottom and rolls right into the aircraft itself. Setting up landing zones, check for any nearby wires. If the site slopes or has many obstacles, notify the pilot. When marking the area, avoid using flags, fusees, or flashing emergency lights. We don't need anything flashing at us, and we don't need anything blowing in the wind, such as flags and that kind of stuff. Keep vehicles clear of the landing zone. We just want lights pointing in there, or somebody to point in that direction that we're coming in. All right, so loading patients in, secure all loose clothing, sheets, and all instruments. Everything has to be strapped down. I really don't like this photograph. Again, we've got one person with a helmet. I'm sure that's your flight medic. We've got two people approaching, and it is a cold landing. This is a Maryland Bell 230. I see a life pack. This is a piece of equipment here that does not look strapped down very well. I don't see any sheets or anything on this person to blow. Those are a very, very important thing. If the helicopter is running, anything that's loose on the patient could actually suck in this intake right here on either side. And if that happens, that's the end of that. Helicopter's down. There may be a fire and it's just a big mess. We don't want that to happen. So nothing loose. Loading patients, again, follow the helicopter crew's instructions, give the patient a report to a crew member away from the noise, and offer your assistance. Patients need to be packaged properly and securely. Again, nothing loose. All right, so summary, as an EMR, you need a proper equipment on an emergency call, including your medical equipment, your life support kit, your personal safety equipment, and the equipment to safeguard the accident scene itself. The 6 phases of emergency call are preparation, dispatch, response to the scene, arrival on the scene, transfer of care of the patient to other EMS personnel, and your post-run activities. All right, folks, you know the deal. Go do your assessment. We're almost there, folks. We're almost there. Go to your assessment block, do your chapter assessment, submit it. Make sure you're getting a 70% or higher on your score. All right. You know the deal. Questions? What a deal. If you got it, send us a question to student@emets.net. We'll get back to you as quick as possible, or you can always reach out and touch us by phone. All right. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.